And for 2011 here, folks, highest grossing film with no surprises is Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2. Notable films of the year: Transformers 3, which is Dark of the Moon. Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Talk about some shitty
No, no.
franchises.
Twilight Breaking Wind Part 2.
The Hangover 2. As much as I
No.
like this movie, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Cars 2. Fast and the Furious 5, which I will say for many people is the revitalization of that franchise. So I won't immediately shit on it just because it's not my thing. 4. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Captain America First Avenger. X-Men First Class. So this is where we started to see some better superhero movies as well. And we also have Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. But we'd be remiss if we didn't say these two. Bridesmaids, one of the most popular female-driven comedies of all time, or possibly the number one, and it deserves a lot of credit for it. But who can forget 2011 for the greatest movie ever made? Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern is released in
Oh, yeah.
2011.
Hey, actually, since you brought up Bridesmaids, it actually did get nominated for.
I saw and
Um,
I was very pleasantly surprised. That movie deserves a lot more praise than it gets. And
well,
it got a lot of
it got
praise.
nominated. It got nominated for like whatever the Producers Guild is for Best Picture, like their equivalent of that. So, I mean, the Producers Guild, I will say, they seem to be more like in tune with public reception
Does that shock you?
because
They're the ones that are responsible for making
eh,
the majority of those movies.
yeah, that's true. Because like in 2009, I want to say, yeah, it was 2009. One of their nominees was Star Trek. '09 Star Trek,
Interesting.
which surprised me. Yeah, they have some surprising choices at times, and I'm like, it's kind of cool to look at their not list sometimes. Any technical changes this year?
What a nomination, not a change, but a nomination. I think Thor deserves a costume design nomination. I think the costuming in Thor is really well done.
Let's see here. See who the nominees were. The artist wins.
Big shock
Anonymous,
there.
yeah, Anonymous, Hugo, Jane Eyre, and WE. So Anonymous, actually, all of those are period pieces. Literally every one.
Yep.
Because Anonymous is a Shakespeare movie. The artist is like 1920s. Hugo's 1920s. Jane Eyre, I have no idea, but it's a period piece.
Yeah.
And WE is 1930s, I want to say. Whenever Edward the Eighth is.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
Actually, it's the person in the King's Speech, his brother.
Huh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I am I'm over the period piece with the Oscars at this point.
I will say, if they're gonna be nominated for anything, it's always costumes that deserves it. But
Well, especially it's directed by Kenneth Branagh. It's extremely Shakespearean how it's presented. And the costumes are legitimately great in Thor. Like
you
if
also
you said
have to,
costumes for Iron Man, I'd be like, that's stupid because half that suit that you see is visual effects, and most of it is just the chest plate, and then it's all visual
you
effects
also
removed.
have to consider what is the studio pushing. Like, are they pushing for awards at all for that movie? Maybe not.
Marvel really didn't try to do much in the early
Yeah,
days, and that's the
they
problem.
might not even like be putting out screeners at all for the Academy voters at all for those movies.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, this is
Because
Marvel.
I actually have a an example of one. Because it was really hard to find a Blu-ray of Nomadland.
Okay.
So I bought this one where it's the Blu-ray, and then literally right under it says for your consideration, and it's like this
It's a test
really
screener.
yeah, it's like a really thin, and then it will list like what awards they want you to consider it for.
Interesting. For you to have
Yeah,
that
so
piece
it's like
there, that's pretty cool.
yeah, so it's like so that's what studios will put out to Oscar voters.
Also, I'm going to
So
say this
I
missed
wouldn't.
opportunity for Deadpool to just, for their release, to put that on the cover and be like, for your consideration, just all jokes. But
I mean, they might have. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney just straight up didn't do that at all for
I will say
any of the
Marvel
Marvel
Studios
movies.
in general really didn't try to get into the awards game until about Black Panther in the
Yeah,
Civil War era.
exactly. Yeah.
And because I remember there was even talk that they were pushing for Robert Downey Jr. to get a Best Actor nom for Endgame, and I was like, like you're talking my peak fandom for Endgame, and I was like, guys,
Mm,
like, come on, come on.
yeah, that'd be a stretch. I
And
mean, they did fairly well with Black Panther though. I mean, that
I
got
mean,
quite a bit of nominations.
yes, it did. But yeah, I that's one of the only technical ones I have, and visual effects. I believe I it's nominated, but I Rise of the Planet of the Apes I think deserves
That's one of my changes.
is the change. Caesar looks so good.
Yeah. It's like yeah, the character work of it is like incredible and it still holds up.
Yeah, Andy Circus baby. It's Andy
That's
Circus
one of
story,
those
baby.
things that like Hugo like visual effects are all over that movie, yes, but it's another one of those ones that like it's not nearly as impressive as like it is like kind of virtual production-ish
Yeah,
where like they are creating like a lot of the environment, but it's like is that as impressive as creating an entire character
I think this is where,
and making it 100% believable?
to me, this is one of those classic examples of the people of the time not getting ready for the time that's coming. And it shows like no disrespect to Hugo, no one talks about Hugo. That movie
Yeah,
came and went, and it was. Is that movie directed by Spielberg
Scorsese.
or Scorsese? Thank you. And I have no beef with Hugo whatsoever. I've never seen it. It looked interesting. It just came and went.
It's pretty forgettable, honestly.
But it's certainly a movie in which it feels like this is what it's supposed to be, and then there's this clear leap into what is and
Yeah,
going to be the
Hugo had
future,
like
to the point where I remember for every year of the revamped trilogy of Planet of the Apes, the debate came up: should Andy Serkis be nominated for Best Actor? Every year, and I
yeah,
think he
I
deserves
do
it.
remember that. Yeah.
And I will say I never thought about that because I didn't look at. I looked at the nominees for Best Actor and I was like, okay, I got no beef with any of them. I didn't really know that year much. The King's Speech. Clearly, you can see from my awards is where I just quit. I just quit trying
Mhm.
because I just went, whatever. I got no hope anyways. Who fucking cares? I would like to revisit that now with that thought because I always think Andy Serkis deserves a lot of
Yeah.
praise critically
That was one of
for
my shout
his
outs.
roles for Caesar.
Yeah, that was one of my shout outs listed for best actor. Yeah, Hugo was actually nominated for 11 nominations. So
I saw that.
that's that's the most of the year, which just shows you how much they love that movie that year.
And
Um,
nobody gives a flying fuck about its sense.
yeah, and no one really mentions it at all in terms of Scorsese's filmography ever.
I mean,
So it
look, I
is
just
pretty
forgot it was a
forgettable.
Scorsese film. I just remembered a big
Yeah,
time director directed it.
yeah. The only other technical change I had is adapted screenplay nomination for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
I
I
would
love
agree with
that
that.
movie,
I think that's a
which
great movie.
you'll see later.
That's a great movie. Also underrated
Yeah,
film. But again, it's one of those that came out, had like 2 3 year run where people are like, "Whoa, what a movie!" and then it just disappeared, and no one ever talks about it ever again, unless they're doing shit like
true.
this, where like no one talks about
Yeah,
it. Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara both are phenomenal in that movie.
yeah. Well, we'll talk about Rooney Mara in a second.
Uh,
Did you have any other?
nope.
Okay, so jumping into the five, you got Michel Hazanavicius winning Best Director for The Artist, actor Jean Dujardin for The Artist, actress Meryl Streep, your favorite, winning for The Iron Lady, supporting actor Christopher Plummer for Beginners, and supporting actress Octavia Spencer for The Help.
Yep. That's a crew. They won.
I only have one change.
I've
I
never
said,
seen The Artist almost out of protest because it's just like,
oh,
this is stupid.
it's actually a really good movie, yeah, honestly.
Again, it's one of those that at the time I just went,
Really
that's
enjoyable.
dumb. But now with far more maturity, I probably would have been like, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Especially as someone who loves singing in the rain. It's kind of singing in the rain. It's like singing in the rain like a little bit.
Okay.
Um it's not a musical up, but yeah, there's definitely inspiration taken from it. Yeah. I said Rooney Mara for best actress instead of Meryl Streep,
Okay.
even though best actress is the only one of those categories that actually had any kind of like competition at all, and it wasn't between those two. It was between Meryl Streep and Viola Davis. Viola Davis won the SAG Award and the Critics' Choice Award. Meryl Streep had won the BAFTA and the Golden Globe. So going in, you probably would have assumed,
It's going to be one of those two.
yeah, and you would have assumed probably Viola Davis would have won, but yeah, she didn't. Yeah, she was nominated for The Help, which that's another movie where like I don't remember anything about that movie.
Never watched it. I know
Yeah,
what it's
I
about.
remember
That's
it.
about it.
Yeah, I remember it being perfectly fine, but I don't remember anything about it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there
I
you
remember
go.
Viola Davis and I remember Octavia Spencer being really good in it. And I remember Bryce Dallas Howard being a bitch in it, and that's about it.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Yeah,
Again, best. I would have said best actor. Would have liked to see a little pub. Or I guess he would be a supporting actor in that because James Franco kind of leads more of that movie. But Andy Serkis as
um,
Caesar, I could see it either way. I could see it be going either way.
yeah. The studio could push it either way. They
Yeah.
could literally pushed it any way they wanted it
Yep.
if they wanted to. Because yeah, they do that all the time. They push things that aren't even remotely close to what reality is,
What
and
was
they
it? It
get
was
away with it.
just a couple years ago. They put somebody in a supporting category. I'm like, how is it a supporting actor? Like,
They did it with what's the girl's name in shit. Now I'm gonna blank on her name again. She's in True Grit.
Haley
It's the girl
Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld. Haley Steinfeld. They said she was a supporting actress, even though she's like, I think she's in literally every single scene of that movie. Like she is not a
Oh
supporting actress.
yeah,
She
yeah,
is
yeah.
the actress in that movie.
But they're gonna be like, well, no, it's about Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is the
Yeah,
one driving this
exactly.
movie. You're like,
Like
shut
no.
up.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Christopher Plummer. I love Beginners. It's a criminally underrated movie. No one ever talks about it. No one's ever seen it really. It's him and Ewan McGregor.
Never heard of it. I literally did not hear about it until I read it
Yeah,
on the sheet.
he's
Until I read it for
um.
the notes.
So he was. Let me see here. He was 82 years old when he won, making him the oldest winner of an acting category at the time.
Hell yeah.
Although I think Anthony Hopkins just overtook that. He won in 2020, and I don't know how old he is, but he's pretty old,
He's
so
getting
he
there.
might have. Yeah, he might have just overtaken that. I don't know how old he
Old
is.
man Tony, he's helping us out.
Yeah. Yeah, he might be older than 82, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Christopher Plummer plays, like, in Ewan McGregor's dad, and he's, like, coming out as gay as an older
Oh,
82-year-old
well, that's
man.
really cool.
Yeah, it's just, like, a really fun, enjoyable comedy that you rarely get. It's just really heartfelt. Yeah, it used to be on my top 100 movies of all time back in the day,
Wow, okay.
so I really enjoy
I
it.
can't wait till we do our top 100 movie episodes, and yours and mine are going to be so wildly
Yeah,
different.
and then just a couple shout outs, Daniel Craig in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
Yep.
and then this one's just personal, I have to do it, Alan Rickman in Harry Potter,
If
Deathly
anyone's
Hallows
going
Part
to
2.
get it, it should be Alan Rickman.
I remember at the time being, like, so hopeful, I was like, "Oh, please, please, please," and then when he didn't get it, I was like, "Fuck you." I was so bummed that he didn't get one because I was like, "Oh, this was his, like, last chance of getting one."
Yeah,
Because
he honestly, I think that kind of works in his benefit in a weird way. Where because he never won one, it's
I mean,
more
he was still
infamous.
alive at the time, it's just, like, that was his last chance as Snape or in the Harry Potter franchise of getting something, so it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
would've been nice to
I
get.
can't really see a performance in Harry Potter that's gonna win. Besides maybe Snape, and even still, I'm like, it's a stretch. Like if I'm trying to even
Yeah.
even looking, I'm like,
No, it's definitely a stretch. I just
I'm
love this
really trying to help
I
you
love
out
it.
here, and I can't think of a single one that I'm like, yeah, like
He's good in the movie, though. He
yeah,
is good.
same thing. Like maybe Gary Oldman for Prisoner of Azkaban, maybe,
I would say that deserves a shout out, yeah.
but that's again a stretch on my part trying to help you out. Like,
Yeah. So, did you have any other shout outs or changes?
well, let's go to Best Picture. I have an opinion, but
Okay.
it's just because of what I like.
Okay, so Best Picture, the artist wins it. Well, this is also when they implemented that rule of if it doesn't get at least 5% of number one votes for Best Picture, it's not eligible. So that's why there's 9 nominations and not 10.
Which I don't hate that rule. I think it
Yeah,
can work
I like
against
that
you.
rule.
I think it can work for you or it could work against you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why there's 9 and not 10. The artist wins it, and then you got The Tree of Life, War Horse, Descendants, Moneyball, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, and The Help.
Go back for 1 second to because I just remembered this. Does Brad Pitt at least get nominated for Moneyball? So I
Oh,
think Jonah Hill does, if I remember correctly.
Brad Pitt does get nominated, and Jonah Hill also does get nominated.
I would have been fine with either of them, but I adore Moneyball.
Moneyball is a movie that has grown on me so much.
Moneyball has become an ultimate comfort movie, and I watched it on a whim a couple years ago, and I have watched it maybe 30 to 50 times since. It is just one of
Yeah,
those that
it's a good movie.
I just put it on and I let it roll. You know I hate baseball.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I
and
don't
it gets
enjoy
me
it either.
interested and to care about baseball. One
Yeah.
thing in my entire life has made me do well two, and that would be the Sandlot and the backyard sports game franchise of
Yeah.
video games back
Yes.
in the day. Those are the only two things that have ever made me care about baseball. And then Moneyball. And that is it. So you'll be shocked that I would think my best picture winner would be Moneyball, but that is just me.
Okay.
That's just me liking Moneyball. I haven't seen the artist. I don't plan on ever watching the artist. I don't plan on watching a lot of the other movies. It's just like, okay.
So this year has one of the movies that I think is like literally one of the least deserving Best Picture nominees I've ever seen, which is Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. The movie is the most mediocre movie it's like it's not good to me at
It's not good.
least. I
It's
just
not good. It's not good.
I just do not enjoy that movie at all. It's got like this and whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just mediocre.
It got a
Um,
nomination when you feel it didn't deserve it. There you go.
yes. And then the other one that I just don't personally enjoy is Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life. I know a lot of people do enjoy it. I do enjoy some Terrence Malick movies, like Days of Heaven and In Red Line, but Tree of Life is just one I just
He's a
don't
director that's never
enjoy.
really made like a big movie to really like.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, all his movies are really, really understated and quiet, and yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like
Y-
getting into movie on online movie circles and people like, oh, upcoming Terrence Malick project. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And I
Yeah.
learned it because Christian Bale was supposed to do one for like years.
Oh, he did one with Rooney Mara. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that was supposed to like that thing was in production for like years and years and years. Where for like 5 years it was Christian Bale's
Turned
gonna
out
do
bad.
it. Christian Bale's gonna do a Terrence Malick movie, and I was like, cool. And then 3 years later, upcoming Terrence Malick project. I'm like, it's been 3 years and there's nothing
Yeah.
happening with this movie. Like, damn.
Yeah. A lot of his, it's really hit or miss for him as well.
Yeah.
Tree of Life just, I don't connect with it all that much. Although the start of the movie starts with dinosaurs, which was really cool, which you would never expect with Terrence Malick. So I took out those two and I put in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy,
Okay.
which I think is really underrated. I think that's a really like cozy spy movie. And then the other movie I put in is Drive.
Oh, Ryan Gosling flick. Yeah.
Best picture of the year. Yes, yes. And then my best picture of the year would have been The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which was not nominated at all.
I would argue that one too. I think of the nominees, Moneyball would have been my pick.
Sure.
I'm a little shocked that Girl with the Dragon Tattoo didn't even get enough first place votes.
Yeah.
That's shocking to me.
I yeah, I don't I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there are movies in here that are fine, like Warhorse, and I love Spielberg, but like Warhorse to me is
That's definitely not on the
fine.
top of his catalog.
Yeah.
I've
I
never
remember
I
watching that in
I,
Christmas being completely alone, like with a bunch of like 70-year-olds. So, yeah,
I
it's fine.
it's certainly I've never seen it, so I don't want to come out and say like, oh, anything, but it's very clear just even from the reception that that was one of those like, yeah, Spielberg made it. What about it? Well, Spielberg made it. It's like, okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Um, favorite movie?
It's Moneyball.
Okay. That's really surprising actually. I would have never guessed that.
Again, up until a couple years ago, never watched it.
Huh.
Uh,
Yeah,
I can't
mine
even.
would be The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or Deathly Hallows Part
I was
2.
gonna say, come on now, it's got to be Deathly Hallows Part Two at least somewhere in there. But I will
Depends on the
say
day.
I will say this. Looking back at 2011, for me personally, woof. That's not a year that I think
Yeah.
is. And there are some movies I like, but it's not a strong. It's not a strong contender for me. Where I'm like, yeah, that was one of those years where there were some strong contenders the couple years prior, and that was one of the first summers where I just went, summer kind of sucks. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you get that every couple of years now where it's just like summer blockbusters just
I think
suck.
I think this year was one of them. Outside of Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yeah.
there wasn't a movie during the summer that I was like, oh, I gotta see that. Or even if it's a summer where it's not great, there's usually a couple that I'm like, oh, I should like 2022. I wasn't like wowed, But I was like, okay, there's indie, there's a couple other things coming out that at least like got my attention. The Flash came out
Hmm.
that year, and I was like, well, it's got Michael Keaton's Batman. I'm gonna go see it. Like, like they that movie sucks, by the way. It's horrible, but
Yeah. Oh, it's awful.
it is. That would be a great competition show. What's worse, The Flash or Green Lantern?
I haven't seen the Green Lantern since it came out, but my guess would be the Green Lantern's better.
God, Green Lantern. I got a quick story about the Green Lantern here.
Okay, sure.
So Green Lantern, ironically, is probably the not the movie, but tangentially because of the movie is why I'm such a comic book fan. Because I remember getting like really deep into the Batman comics, but it was like I really pretty much only read Batman. And then I was starting to branch out into like Justice League, and that's where I was like, okay. And I've always been a DC fanboy. And then they announced Green Lantern's coming out. It had Ryan Reynolds, and I liked Ryan Reynolds, and I went, instead of me just blindly hating this character, let me read these comics. And it was really prompted by the movie coming out, so I at least kind of understood it. And I found the entire Jeff Johns run of Green Lantern and absolutely fell in love. And that to this day could be argued as maybe one of, if not my favorite run of comic books ever, is Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern. Midnight release of Green Lantern, when they still did midnight releases, not even the 10 p.m. bullshit.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, oh, I have to go. It's Green Lantern. I have to go. I could not get a single soul to go with me to the point where Dad felt bad for me and agreed to go. Because this is at the point that he's just like, you can go do whatever the hell you want. You're technically an adult.
Yeah.
And I could tell, it was the first time I ever saw Dad go like, I legitimately feel bad for you that no one will go, so I will go. And he did not want to go. And he's a huge Ryan Reynolds fan. There was maybe us and 8 or 9 other people in that theater, and it was in the big, like Marcus and Oshkosh, like the theater one's like the giant stadium seating one. Maybe 8 other people. Like that was a flop amongst.
Wow.
That was a flop of flops.
Holy crap.
And that movie hurt my feelings so much that I was just like,
Yeah, it sucked. I mean,
it's so bad.
There's no way of putting it other than it sucked.
Trust me, when we talk about that tournament idea for a show in a couple months, Green Lantern's making an appearance.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, it was just one of those where there's like 8 other like, and the worst part is I think I knew 6 of the 8 other people in the theater because I at least saw them at the comic book store, so I knew it was just like me and the other sweaty nerds that were like, "It's Green Lantern, we have to be here," and all of us were just like, fuck. this movie sucks. With giant poop cloud parallax and oh god, it's bad.
Yep.
It's bad.
Okay, 2011 Rising Star Award. Chris Hemsworth, Chris O'Dowd, Adam Deacon, Eddie Redmayne, and Tom Hiddleston.
That's a good crew.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume. I think let's say Chris Hemsworth because he's got more of the action star about him.
It is Adam Deacon.
The one that
And
nobody
guess what?
knows.
I have no idea who that is.
I was hoping you were about to tell me because I have no idea who that is.
No. And when I looked him up, I was like, I've literally never heard of anything he's in.
Maybe they got that one wrong.
So like, he must have just been in some like either really big indie British movie or a really big British TV show. Yeah.
Of that's a good crew though. O'Dowd, Hiddleston,
like,
Hemsworth. Like,
the other ones are all big hitters.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. It's what I look back on. Again, I'm sorry I do this every episode, but there's a time period of like pro wrestling where every champion you're just like, yeah, makes sense, and then there's just that one guy where you're like, he had it. What?
Yeah.
And then it goes back, to Hall of Famer, and you're like, yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
It's just, I think this is the BAFTAs just being like, ah, fuck, we fucked that one up. Just don't talk about him.
Yeah, that's the one they want everyone to forget about.
All right, let's roll into 2012 here.